It's going down. It's going down, 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 down. It's going down, down, down. It's going down, 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 down. It's going down, 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 it's going down, it's going.
Good morning, Broomfield. How are you feeling on the upper deck? All right. How are we feeling the lower deck? We doing all right? That's good. Once again, my name is Al Smith. Wanted to say good morning. Wanted to say hello. We're about 3 minutes from kicking this thing off. Semifinals in the Yeti Lead Climbing National Championship. As you all know by now, our job is to light this place up, make it big energy, make it big fun, and get our climbers to the top of the wall. They're all hanging out right now behind this impervious black wall, and while we may not be able to see them, they can hear us. So let's let them know one time, Broomfield, how we're feeling. Make some noise. All right. We're all very good at this by now. They are very good at climbing. We are very good.
Going all the way up. I'm going all the way up. I'm letting go in my heart of everything that holds me down. No, no.
Good morning and welcome to the 2022 Yeti Climbing National Championships. It is lead day, the final day of our event. This morning we are going to have the semi-finals. When the sun sets tonight, we will have ourselves new national champions. Pete Woods here alongside Megan Martin, former national team member turned climbing analyst. Megan, good morning.
Good morning, Pete, and good morning, everyone. So excited to be here for semifinals. It's going to be really, really exciting. Lots of good climbing. Qualifiers was definitely a show.
The routes yesterday, just to put it in perspective, they don't like to grade the routes, but the men's routes were around 13 plus and the women's routes were around 13 minus. So the qualifying yesterday, very, very difficult. They climbed 2 routes yesterday.
Yes.
You climb one, you get a pretty good rest, you climb the other, and then we rank them from first down to the bottom. We take our top 26 today, and we're going to climb at the same time. So we're going to have one man and one woman climbing beside each other. Megan, they have 6 minutes to climb the route. How often does time actually become a factor on a semi-final route like this?
I remember at team trials last year, there were a lot of athletes that timed out, but it also kind of depends on the wall. This wall is pretty steep, and it's not the tallest of walls. It's still about 15 meters, but that steepness makes it to where you can't just like hang out as much. So time shouldn't be as big of a problem here today, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, it's one of those things that we just put on there. They must finish the route in 6 minutes. It becomes a tiebreaker if that needs to be happen. We're panning up the women's route here. As Megan said, about 50 feet of climbing, about 45 moves on this route. So those are the available points for this semifinal route. Every hold you touch, you get 1 point. If you top the route, you get 45. The thing that we use here to break small ties, Megan, is the plus.
Yes. So you need to be able to show that positive movement towards that next hold, so you get scored for the hold you controlled, and then the movement towards the next scored hold. And some holds do have multiple points because some are scored as matching holds. So if they bring 2 hands on some holds, they get the 2 different points for that. But
yeah, so it's not necessarily, so I said 1 point per hold, but it's basically 1 point per climbing movement.
yeah, it depends on what the route map says, and the athletes don't get to look at the route map. Luckily, we have them sitting here, and if you're following along at home, looking at the scoring, that's what you'll see. But we've got our first athletes out here. On the left, we have Jillian Gerlitz, and on the right, we have Gavin Albright.
They just, they get right into it. They don't spend a lot of time at the bottom. They come out, they're tied in, already back in isolation, so they come out ready to rock and roll. As we said, the clock can become a factor, but there's no need to stand around on the mat. You've got your sequence ready, you know what you're going to do, and now it's time to go out and execute. The thing about lead climbing, of course, Megan, is that there is no second chance.
Exactly, which always adds a little bit of stress, but you know, the athletes are practicing for this. They're used to this. It is very different from bouldering, so it's nice that they had a few days off from the bouldering round because a lot of these athletes did compete in bouldering. So you're switching disciplines, and there are definitely some similarities between the disciplines, but lead climbing, having that one shot always makes it a little bit more stressful.
Because one slip can be the end. In a bouldering round, if you slip on one of your attempts, and you shake it off, you get back on and off you go. Here you have to be almost perfect. Yes, you can make mistakes. Of course, you adapt on the fly. Holds aren't quite as good as you thought they might have been. Footholds aren't quite where you thought they were when you previewed. But it is the most precise of the disciplines where you got to go out, get it right. See some feet swinging around outside on the right side of your screen from Gavin. A bit of a powerful move in the middle.
Yeah, he read that really well. I was talking to Ryan Sewell, one of the route setters, earlier, and he was saying that the easiest way to do that move is to just commit and kind of catch one hand and come in and catch with the other one hand. He said that some athletes might try to static it, but it would make it a lot harder to have to hold that tension.
And you just see here, just something we'll point out, those black domes, those are covering the bolt hangers on this wall. We don't want to have any accidental brushes. We don't want to, you can't step on them. So those aren't holds.
Well, you can step on them, but they are slippery, so they're not going to necessarily help you. Nice catch of the swing there by Jillian Gurlis. Her foot kind of cut a little more quick than she wanted it to, but she handled it nicely.
Reeled it in. You get a little bit, your heart rate goes up a notch. You squeeze a little bit harder.
She's really getting into that powerful section of this route. As you see the angles kicking back a bit, this cross move is going to be probably the most powerful move she's done so far. Oh, after that bump move first.
Gavin running out of gas, just couldn't quite get up into that clip. The lactic acid comes screaming into your forearms when you get into the middle of the steep section of this wall.
Jillian doing a really good job reading this route so far. I will say, looking at this route, it is nice. The opening section is just like, can you make right decisions and stay on your feet? Now this is where it really gets a little more powerful, having to swing her foot over and do this really aggressive kind of rose move that she's going to try to match to make it a little less big of a cross. Really good effort there. Nice climbing there.
Good piece of climbing, and you have to make decisions, Megan, of when you're going to clip the draws, of course, but you cannot climb past, or you cannot clip the next quick draw, or your route is done. You have to be careful with your decision making. Sometimes the clipping stances, the route setters try to make the clipping stances positive. We're not out here to cause spicy falls or have people come off clipping. But when you're climbing and you're pumped and you get to a stance and you can't quite clip, you want to move on to make points, but you can't out-climb the last place you should have clipped the rope.
Totally. With the long draws, though, it's nice because you're not above them, so you can actually do a lot more climbing before they will actually call you off. But with those shorter draws, it's either when your foot passes the lowest part of the draw or the highest part where the bolt is, then your belayer will let you know, like, climber, you need to clip, otherwise you're told to get off the wall. So with that long draw, that's actually really interesting because now the athletes will be able to maybe make more moves in that section without having to clip that one possibly. But then at a certain point, it might be hard because it's a long draw to be able to reach down and get it. But we might see some creativity, it's always fun to see like a foot hook to the draw to pull it back up. We see that a lot in World Cups, so. Yeah,
I've seen them they lay the quick draw even over their leg to clip the rope in. There's lots of things you can do there. And
quick draw creativity.
And it'd be a neat section because there's a couple of clips in a row, and you saw Jillian climb past one from one of those, the side pull moves. So we get to see those options. Everyone's going to preview that a little bit differently, and then when you get there, it's going to matter how good the stances are and what kind of fitness you've got. So the bouldering fitness is powerful, power endurance. How many hard moves can you do with pretty good rest in between? The lead route is about that stamina. How many hard moves can you do in a row as this wall gets steeper and steeper through the middle? It lets off a little bit on the head wall, but it's not vertical. And generally the holds get really thin and the moves get a bit spicy. So we get our next two climbers out.
Ariana Matthews on the left and Carlo Traversi on the right. Nice to see Carlo back in a semifinal. He has won this competition 2 times prior. Probably one of the most well-rounded climbers of my generation. I wouldn't say this generation because he's in my generation, being 34 years old. But really, you know, climbed 515B, climbed V16, 14C trad. I mean, multiple national titles. He does it all.
Yeah, you're right. He's maybe one of the most accomplished. He's probably the most accomplished outdoor climber
in this competition, 100%.
And it's just cool to see him. I remember he came out last year. He was on the broadcast for a little bit last year, putting his insight in there, and he was highlighting that while rock climbing is, of course, part of climbing, plastic is so different.
Yeah.
The way you grab the holds, the way you use the feet, and the body positions you get into. So, you know, it's not just because you can climb 515 doesn't mean you're going to top an on-site route in a comp.
Early fall there for Ariana Matthews. And like I was saying earlier, this lower section is all about reading that sequencing perfectly. There's a lot of small feet, a lot of handholds that don't necessarily want to grab. I mean, if you look at the women's route, there's a lot of small footholds that are then blocked by another small jib hold. Early fall there for Carlo Traversi as well. Very surprising. He's definitely not going to be very psyched with that. But again, you know, he doesn't actually spend a lot of time training. I mean, he actually hasn't been on a rope, I think, since he climbed Flex Luthor, but, you know, which was like some months ago.
But the fitness is that definitely was a slip.
Oh, for sure.
You know, that's I don't think it's even a mistake. The angle is always hard to translate at home, but the volumes that you're standing on there are near vertical, and it's a lot of it's compression. It's, you know, open book climbing through there. There's not a lot to grab, not a lot to save your movement. If you have a little slip, there's nothing to sort of grab and rewind with.
The other thing about routes like this, especially at the beginning and being on those volumes and those small holds, if you find yourself in just the wrong body position for a second, it is just so easy to lose your balance, and the next thing you know, you're off the wall. And it happens to everybody. It's hard. Like, everyone's had a lower fall than they're capable of. Like, if you've gone through competitions and it's never happened, like, that's pretty lucky.
Yeah, that's very lucky. And you see there, Carlo, still just staring at the route. You know, he's thinking, wow, man, did I make a mistake? What did I do different?
Yeah, like, what was I thinking? Where should I have had my feet, my hips?
And sometimes you even get, there's the pang of regret because you thought, I was looking forward to climbing this section of the route, and I didn't get to show what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
So it's a whole bunch of emotions piled in on an early slip. So unfortunate to see, but nothing that happens in a climbing gym is going to do anything to affect Carlo's legacy out on the rock.
No, not at all. And the thing is like these two kind of routes that they have today, I mean, we're likely to still see multiple slips down low throughout the field.
And it's when you only have, you know, this is not, as you said, the tallest wall out there. You have to give the climbers things that will make them second guess. You have to give them things that will make them climb a little slower, a little more carefully, give them fatigue in different areas.
Sean Faulkner on the right and Carrie Scott on the left. Sean trying to figure out if he wants to jam. Looks like he'd prefer to rather than just laying this opening section back.
Shout out to Sean Faulkner, a Canadian, in fact.
Yes,
living
he
in
is.
Salt Lake, a dual citizen, but he's my foreign national coming from Canada, an excellent climber. We'll see what he can do.
Yes, a very good climber, indeed. I know he flew in just for the lead round specifically. He got here a couple nights ago.
Well, I expect to see him at Canadian Nationals just in 2 weeks from now. Good climbing here, moving quite quickly, Carrie Scott.
This opening section is definitely something I would think she would like. I feel like as far as her climbing style goes, she's quite technical, like small holds. She's good at finding the right body positions, has a lot of good footwork, the compression with her feet specifically, and like being able to stand on her feet well. So as long as she keeps it together, this foothold is my favorite. Just the fact that it's blocked. It's already like a pretty bad foothold, and then it's blocked again by a smaller screw-on.
Turning into a slopey little jib there. I really like this section here.
Yeah, when it first starts to get kicked back a little bit.
And you've got a few just options for body position.
It's really nice when you can release the foot. We saw earlier Jillian kind of had to hold the swing there because as she was going to release that foot, it kind of popped off. And that's another section that I feel like could be pretty risky for a lot of athletes if you aren't paying as much attention to your feet. It'll be easy to lose that tension in a second. Sean Faulkner just kind of falling off through that volume section after the jump, kind of getting a little mixed up there, which I feel like Gavin did a little bit as well, but he was able to kind of fix it a bit. But it's not the most straightforward, and there's so many blockers. She just undershot that pocket.
A little accuracy is one of those tricks that the route setters will put in. It's if you're stabbing around a corner and you're a bit pumped, you have a little bit of a shake. If you're trying to grab a wide flat ledge or a pinch, you've got room for error. But pocket's almost no room for error. And you saw Carey got maybe 1.5 in there, and really you need to sink that. Because the feet are getting farther and farther away in that position.
Yep. It is always tricky coming around corners. And remember, these athletes don't get to watch anybody climb this route. They know nothing about it other than what they learned in their preview time. So there's conversation going on when they're previewing the route, but nobody really knows what it feels like. You're kind of coming up with that plan A, plan B, plan C, and then trying to execute on the fly, which is definitely easier said than done.
Yeah, and it was interesting. I was talking to Nakaya Sanders yesterday. Said when asking her when she previews, how quickly do you throw out what you read versus someone else? And she said, I like to preview the route on my own first, go through all the moves, and then I'll join the conversation and see if I'm being an idiot anywhere. She's like, I want to double check that I'm not missing something obvious. So like, oh, you guys didn't read the double undercling rose move?
Right?
You're like, no one read the double undercling rose move.
Yeah.
So you want to, there's a balance of that. If you have a teammate, Megan, what's it like, when you're at an international level competition, or even here when you've traveled, do you tend to gravitate to your teammates during preview?
Yeah, I feel like you often gravitate towards someone you know well or someone you've spent time climbing with. I also think it's good to, maybe run through with someone who's like around the same height and has the same or close enough wingspan to you, because you're likely to do things a little more similar. But yeah, at the end of the day, generally anyone you're friends with, I feel like makes the most sense.
Somebody you inherently trust to also know the way you climb and say, I'm going to do it this way, but I don't know, Megan. You're pretty powerful. You probably just want to bump through that section.
Definitely.
Yeah. Now we've got Gabrielle Galen and Isis Rothfork.
It's interesting. I feel like each of the men have kind of done that opening move section a little differently, but it's definitely not. I haven't seen one person come up and just quickly get into it, because it's just confusing enough to be like, wait, what do they want from me here?
Yeah, and there's not a lot to grab. You see even here sort of on hand position 4 and 5, now 6, 7, just to get around this one triangle volume. And this is where Carlo ended up slipping, is just getting out of this annoying position. And sometimes that's rock climbing. It's not comfortable, it's awkward, but you have to deal with it, because it's not going to change.
Yeah,
it's
you
up
just kind of
to
have
you
to
to
sink
adapt
into the moves and trust them and trust your body positions, because it's just not always going to feel comfortable, especially in competitions where they are trying to create awkward movements that feel risky, things that make you feel like you might fall. That's the whole point of what the route setters are giving the athletes.
Or even things that you might feel that you're doing wrong, because they do feel so awkward.
Isis nicely into this next section, about to set up for the more overhung section. Yeah. Staying calm though, which is always a good plan. Got Gabriel. I
think the pressure ratchets up pretty much right there.
And you really have to fire for that next little screw on for the men out of an undercling, which is always pretty powerful to do.
This is good.
Trying to keep that foot there, nicely through that. Nice strategic foot cut too.
It's maybe one of my favorite things, Megan. I know you love an inside flag. I like a good strategic float.
They're super useful. It definitely, to keep just a little bit pumped, I think. She definitely exerted more energy. I remember talking to her yesterday. She was saying she liked that these walls were a bit shorter because she didn't have to rely on endurance as much.
And then just to sort of get punched in the nose right in the middle. Yeah.
But semifinals is always the most difficult round. So you have to expect a hard route.
Agreed. And with 26 climbers, you're looking at a pretty big spread. The top, I would say probably at least half of both the men's and women's field are all capable of making that final. So you are, the field is deep at nationals this year. I feel we say that probably every year, but it seems quite deep this year. Both national champions have returned. Everyone's in the mix, so you have to come out ready to climb routes that are designed to throw off, the likes of Kaya Condry and Sean Bailey. Like that's what the routes are set for, that difficulty.
Yeah, there's a lot of really talented lead climbers, and you can't, there are no gimmies. And there were years at nationals where the finals route was being topped by multiple athletes, so they've really stepped it up in the last few years and started making those routes a lot harder, just because that field is so strong. And the last thing we want are 5-way ties for first. And I mean, it'd be nice to get a top in the semis, but that's all you want. Maybe one.
I was talking to
I
was talking to one of the setters, Mike Bacchino, yesterday, and he said, maybe we got a top, but it's fine if we don't.
Yeah, totally.
And that's the way that the routes are designed. The separation is so easy to get because every movement creates separation. We might see a couple of bottlenecks in the first maybe quarter of the field where some of those climbers are getting into the first really seriously difficult moves. So yeah, we might see a couple climbers coming out with the same number of points, but that's fine. Ties through the middle of the pack.
It's okay.
Not to be stressed about.
Kylie Salaji on the left and Joe Goodacre.
I like Go Goodacre. I think
Goodacre.
I'm going to take that. I think that's fantastic.
Joe Goodacre on the right, trying to work through that cruxy opening section, which is all volumes.
Yeah.
It's just what everyone wants to see when they step out to a lead climb.
Just give me something to wrap my fingers around. I just want to grab a crimp right now. That's what they're thinking.
Kylie trying to make sure she makes really good foot decisions and is very stable in every movement.
And try not to get too stretched out, climbing nice and as compact as you can. As you've mentioned a couple times now, there's that point where the feet get quite far away from you, and to keep that tension is important, or know when you're going to release is important. Getting your feet slipping by surprise is a completely different story than that strategic release or that decision to cut your feet and move them up.
Yeah, and I would say the whole first third of the women's route is just static climbing. It's not really until you start to get into that small roof that there are any foot cuts that should really happen. You're just really on your feet. And the angle is somewhat of a slab almost, especially with the addition of the volume. So it's a very low angle. So the technical footwork and foot placements are going to be what you're going to want to pay attention to. Joe kind of fighting for this roof, see if he can get up to that next screw on that big red hold. Such a powerful move. I feel like this opening section of the men's route, because it's so uneasy, I almost wonder if everyone's not paying attention to their breath as much, and they're so tense that by the time they get into the roof, they're already so zapped for energy to do that really powerful move, because they haven't been, breathing like they should, because it is hard in those situations to have those nice deep breaths that really make the blood flow work a bit better.
You are, I think, 100% correct, Megan. You're carrying this tension. You're not breathing. You have nothing that you can sort of lean back on and maybe just stretch your shoulders out, or take that moment where you can relax your core a little bit. So by the time they get there, they're unexpectedly gassed. And Joe he hit the jump, no problem. And then as soon as you reach into the underclings, all the body tension left. It's difficult to come back with. Kylie here now getting into the business.
Yeah, I think it's questionable if that rest was a good idea. I do think that was probably a good idea, considering I don't think you really have another spot where you can rest that well. And she's no stranger to semis. She's been in semis last nationals as well, so she definitely knows what she's doing, just trying to conserve her energy as well as she can. Now
find the good spot on this hold.
Nicely into the pocket. see if she can get this foot over. Oh, she's going to go. Oh, she kind of read it. I wonder if she didn't see that lower volume. I'd be surprised because it's gray on like a tan wall, but she was trying to go high foot first versus like kind of swinging out low to that volume. So interesting choice of beta there, but really nice climbing from her.
Yeah, she was composed through the difficult section and made that. I thought that the clip that she got, you know, you could see a little bit of that arm shake that I thought that was going to be a bit dicey, and she recovered back from that.
She really did. It looked a little, that's where I was questioning, was that rest a good idea? I can't really tell.
There is a, you know, some climbers are rest more than others. Some climb sort of that slow, languid approach. There are some sprinters. You're going to see lots of different approaches to where you take on these routes. You know, when we get up to a little bit higher, when the stamina really starts to hurt, you might see some rest. So the route setters will put in holds that are good enough to rest on. And sometimes, I mean, I've seen semifinals routes where there's a hold that's a good rest, but you have to worry about the time. So it's lower than you want. So it's like, oh, here's a good rest, but if I waste a lot of time here, I still have a lot of hard climbing to go. So you see all these different you know, all these different tools that come out of the toolbox from the route setters to make, you know, the best climbers in the country nervous, to make them insecure, to make them second guess themselves. And then from that, we're going to see some slips and falls, and that's the nature of the game. Coming up now, Alex Johnson, who if you watch the bouldering rounds, made it into her 16th final over her illustrious competition climbing career. And then Nathan Sato, youngster from Colorado Springs. I saw him climbing his qualifiers yesterday, and he looked very smooth.
Yeah, he is a really good lead climber. He was 8th in lead at Youth World Championships earlier this year. So when you're in that final at Youth World Championships, you know, you know that. You definitely know what you're doing.
Yeah, you got what it takes.
It's always that transition from youth to the elite series is always a bit tricky, but you know,
he's got
he's
time.
doing a good. He's already doing a great job, only being 16 years old. As Alex is quickly through the first half of this bottom section, she looks really good, and also movements that she would like. She's really good on her feet, really strong fingers, has really good technique. The key here will be just maintaining as much of her energy as possible. She is primarily a boulder, so it's just going to be conserving energy, but the climbing itself, she should be looking really good on, and I feel like that's what she's doing right now.
Yeah, even just little things like that casual foot hop, just shows that she knows she's got the power to do those moves, and when you have that ability to do both bouldering and lead, and you know that you've got the power to make some of those moves just seem a little bit easier. It's an a stamina-based activity, but the stronger you are, the more powerful you are, then it's easier. You see Nathan is swinging out on the jump. I love that that's in there.
Yeah, that jump is really fun. Quick look at the women's standings right now, with Kylie holding down that high point with the 26 plus, and Gavin Albright holding it down with the 16, and Nathan Sato is about to climb his way up into that next section that could possibly threaten that high point in the next like 6 or 7 moves.
Resting longer than anyone to this point in that move with that heel hook up there.
He also, I feel like other people didn't look as comfortable there, so I feel like he's in a good spot. Ooh, early fall there for Alex.
Yeah, I didn't quite catch what happened there. Maybe she fumbled the crimp.
I think she definitely did. She's looking at her fingers. I wonder if her skin's not so great. I mean, she did do 3 rounds of bouldering and then 2 routes yesterday.
Good look at how nasty the crimp is to lead into that undercling, just to show you what's at stake. Nathan climbing into the lead with that move. And now look, hunting.
Well, he's almost there. He's got to get to the next. There's a couple more moves. It's that next blue hold that he's eyeing up. That's where Gavin was. So it looks like Gavin should hold on to that high point there. AJ always full of smiles, a seasoned competitor. She knows that things like this can happen. She's
pumped?
Definitely pumped.
Yeah, all right. So that
21 plus. not so bad. Still pretty good. It's kind of right there with a few of the other athletes. So.
And that answers the question. She was pumped.
Yeah. And that was like the biggest obstacle that she was going to face, is managing that pump.
Yeah, and she's more of a boulderer. If you were gonna put Alex in a category, and most of her outdoor climbing has been on boulders across the summer as well. So, as you said, strong fingers, fantastic technique, an excellent climber, seasoned competitor. None of that lets you outrun the pump.
No, yeah, definitely not. Outrunning the pump is quite difficult. And when you see people who can do it really well, it's always just so impressive. You're like, how are they still on the wall? They look fresh.
They look different.
What's going on?
Yeah, they grab holds differently. You'll see the difference between people bearing down.
Alex Johnson currently in 4th. We'll have to see if that ends up sticking, with many, many more of the women to still come. You never know. It's hard to predict, because I would be like, if I'm going to say it, I'd be surprised if more women fall below that, but you just never know, because anything can happen.
Yeah, and it's I was trying to find another way to say exactly what you said. Anything can happen.
But like, I'm not sure, like, it's not, wouldn't expect 15 women to fall below that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then who really knows? You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, slips and trips.
It would be surprising, but you misread a sequence and all of a sudden you're really in trouble. And so many of the holds have that dual texture, so there's just so much opportunity to slip.
Yeah, it presents many spaces for even small mistakes to get highlighted, and then you make a couple of mistakes in a row, and now you're pumped, and now your footwork isn't quite where you wanted it to be, and it can be very difficult to extricate yourself from those mistakes. We've got Callie Close and Jacob Kleppel coming out now. Callie Close, who, if you watch the speed round,
our speed national champion, back-to-back speed national champion.
I mean, she's climbing quite quickly up the start. It's interesting to be a speed climber and still climb other disciplines in sort of this generation of competition climbing.
You're not seeing that as often, but there are definitely still some athletes that are doing two disciplines and 3 disciplines. So it happens. And I know Callie loves lead climbing and bouldering as well, so I feel like as long as she has the energy to do that and then like still get it done in the speed, it's like, why not?
Yeah, no, like to make the semifinal is huge.
I mean, she's a great lead climber, great boulderer, and then obviously a fantastic speed climber.
Looking pretty smooth here, as smooth as everyone through this section.
Yeah, we'll see if she takes that rest up here or if she decides to kind of keep moving, as Jacob Kleppel quickly into that. I noticed he really was smooth through that opening section, kind of committed to what he was going to do faster than I've seen most of the men do it.
The first time we've seen them at essentially the same height at the same time. A lot less second guessing, and then no rest at all, but doesn't like the footwork. It is awkward.
Everyone wants to go left there, but
yeah,
the heel here is definitely the way, and then you're later going to bring that left foot up. But everyone tries to go with their left foot to that volume first.
Callie now just where Alex slipped. She missed that crimp. She's climbing into the... Almost saved it, and then Jacob running out of gas, coming off at essentially the same time. Good save from Callie, but not, I mean, those 2 crimps are quite small.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's awkward too, because that long draw gets behind your shoulder, so you have to hang out on that smaller crimp longer, pull it back in front of you, then clip. Like, questionably, is it better to just do the cross and then clip? Like, maybe that would have been a better option. But again, you're trying to figure this out on the fly. You have no idea. You're just like, oh, the clip's here. Maybe I should clip it now. Because there are occasions where all of a sudden you go past the clip and it's impossible to come back to it. So it's always a dicey decision-making moment.
And you get in your head a little bit, and sometimes the clipping stance, the hold is good enough, and you're hunting for something better, or the better hold is lower, and you end up too high and locked off, and now you're reaching and you might fumble it, and then you have to change your mind, and desperation starts to set in.
So many things that can happen.
And I find that lead climbers, especially in this pedigree of field, is the duck analogy where they look calm and then suddenly they fall off. So you're not going to see 3 and 4 and 5 moves of panic. All the action is going on behind the scenes. They're controlling it as well as they can, and then they'll just sort of come off of a hold or slip, and you think, well, you look so fresh, and they come down and tell you, I was pumped from the middle.
You're like, I looked fresh, I felt terrible.
Yeah, I felt panicked. And like, no, your body language said that you were, you had it under control, because what you're training to do is, when you get in those situations, the right thing to do is to slow down your process to make sure your footwork is good, so you're not stabbing irrationally or moving erratically. So they do slow down a little bit in their decision making and the way they move around. So it's counterintuitive when you're watching suddenly people come spinning off the wall and you think they've made a mistake, but really they've been pumped for 5 moves in a row.
Yeah. Clay Gordon stepping out, as well as Julia Duffy getting ready to start their attempts at the semifinal route. Both pretty familiar faces.
It's a good look at the start of this. Clay's going to elect to get that half of a hand jam.
Yeah, I guess it's just whatever you're most comfortable with. I feel like the feet are set up much better just to lay it back, but like if you're good at jamming with your feet, which clearly Clay had no issue with, like he looks really comfy, you might as well. It's just whatever suits you best.
As long as you make a decision and stick with it, good shape.
Just got to be confident in all of your decision making. Julia was 9th in lead last year at Nationals, and then at team trials she did not have as good of a moment, but the year before she has been on the team and done a lot of the World Cups recently. Also still so young, she is one of those competitors that is a lot younger. Oh, you know what? I was just reading the wrong results. She was I was like, that doesn't
sound. You were second guessing it. Yeah.
Sorry, that was wrong. She was 4th in lead at team trials at 2022.
Which is an
Which she had
result.
A stellar performance as well, because that was a crazy route. If anyone remembers. I don't know if you guys remember, but I actually do.
Yep.
Oh, Clay having 2-4. This is
Wow,
one of those
exciting.
Point of no returns. I wonder. Oh, he's lucky he can reach that. I was gonna say, I wonder if a high heel and then reach back down could have worked.
In the rest,
he's pretty lanky, so it was okay. Julia calmly working her way through here. I know she climbed not to her ability yesterday, so I know she's planning to make up for it here today. She had a little slip on that qualifier on the right side of the wall that was super risky. We saw so many slips from the women. I mean, this route was exactly where the men's route is right now, and I feel like that angle change calls for risky movement. And so we're kind of seeing that again now with the men's semi-route today.
Good work
and
here.
Actually, women's number 1 was in this same kind of
in
section.
This spot, yeah.
And she crushed it yesterday, so on that one.
Yeah, I mean, 4th at the Continental Championships last year. She has that international experience as well.
She did a lot of she was 32nd in Cronge a couple years ago, 2021. So she's had a lot of good lead World Cup experience.
And making a semifinal at a World Cup is definitely something to put on your resume.
Oh yeah, because in Villar she was 26, so she's been in the semis. So.
And Edinburgh too, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, 25th in Edinburgh and looking.
So getting consistent.
Yeah.
She just needs to get this swing over. Nice.
Oh, really? It's a good one-handed save
and
the clip. This is that looks like a good position to clip that from when seeing her in it.
Oh, come on, hold it. There.
Also a good
save. Good fight.
Now, this is sapping energy, but every hold is important.
Wow, that was so good.
And now looking super composed again.
Really nice climbing by Julia Duffy.
Excellent work. Yeah, the drop down suddenly puts an awful lot of weight into that left hand. and then to reach back and make the clip, that's going to be a point where the route setters are going to ask some questions of you, is how confident are you on that one hand? And she climbed through that really well, recovered really nicely. The rows also fantastic to have got it so far out of ideal position and then to have reeled it back in.
I also think just finding that little screw on the volume so quickly after 2 was pretty impressive, because when it's pretty small on that left corner, and depending on which way you're looking at it when she's swinging, like she might have not even been able to see it, and her foot went right to it. So that's some good route reading as well, and route remembering, honestly, right?
Yeah, exactly.
To know that that little jib is there, because honestly, in those moments where things are happening and you're just trying to react, it's so easy to make a mistake.
I love you see Clay there just remiming what was happening. Well, I went up to the undercling. Yeah. So you have that moment where you think, how was I doing? I think I was climbing really well. And the hallmark of competition climbing is that competitors wish they could have shown you more, and you come off. I mean, you preview the route expecting to climb through the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly.
You know there's going to be some spots that are going to be difficult. You know there's going to be some cruxes. You see Julia there climbing her way into current first place with that 28 plus. Yeah, but you always want to, unless you top the route, you want to climb farther than you did. That's just inherent.
Gavin Albright still holding on to that high point as well. I'm sure he's like, wait, what? I can't believe he probably came off thinking like, oh, I'm only halfway, and now he still has a high point, and that happens all the time in a semifinal round.
Yeah, tenuously hanging on to the top spot right now. Helen Stevens gonna get it next up the women's route. Solomon Barth will be on the men's. This a good look at this section too, that the crimp there is just enough to make you really decide how much you want to squeeze.
Yeah, and just nasty crimps too. It's like the last thing you want to do is have to grab those nasty crimps right off the bat.
Yeah.
And when you're in a competition, it's so easy to overgrip, and that I think is why this section is also zapping a lot of the women, because they're small holds, so you're like, okay, I have to grab onto them aggressively, but then in moments of competition, overgripping is so common and so hard to avoid, but like they're forced to be so tensiony and forced into a strenuous position down low on this route.
Yeah, that's an excellent way to describe that, is the strenuousness and the overgripping. And I mean, Megan, it saps your energy exponentially when you are locking down little crimps instead of that open hand relaxed position.
Exactly. Nice little palm press there for a little extra pop to the crimp by Saul. Setting up,
big judge,
just
that
going for it.
Very confidently, didn't even hesitate. Moving really well. Saul now taking a little rest. We've seen a little bit of everything, a little shake sometimes, a little sprint other times. Meanwhile, Helen getting into this. Oh, we've seen a couple different sections, different decisions in that section, and just that's not a great hold to be popping dynamically too. Solomon getting into the business through the undercling section quite well. Now this is putting him into, yes, this is going to be the best we've seen, getting the high point. He says, we were talking about the long draws. Sometimes the positions are awkward. It's Saul getting it clipped in there, just hanging out right at his waist. And now excited to see new parts of this route. Just not quite able to hold that cross body swing, but good climbing from Solomon Barth. Looked composed on the dyno and then moved through that time. I mean, the crimps on those volumes, we'll see them a few more times, don't worry about it. They are not very good. So excellent climbing there. Maybe Helen just getting a little bit too stretched out, made a bit of a stab to that purple sloper and could not quite hold the swing. This is a textbook semi-final round, is the people putting everything they have in, and these routes are designed to be separating the best climbers in the country. So expect, you know, a handful more to be coming off in this sort of middle section. The women climbing up to about the middle, the men still just a little bit below the halfway point. It is 35 total points, so they're getting around that 15, 16 mark. And the women are climbing up just about into that, where you're thinking about this might be finals territory if you're sticking, you know, maybe another another clip past that, 4 or 5 more holds.
It's always exciting to have a new leader. I feel like it's hard when you're watching the scores because we're seeing it happen and it's like they've climbed, they have no idea. I mean, maybe even for 5-10 minutes because it takes them, like they have to get their phone back or ask somebody else. Maybe someone's like, oh, you got
my God, you're at the high point.
Yeah, but otherwise you're like in this weird limbo of, wait, did I do well? Did I do bad? I don't know.
And because you always want to do better and you feel like maybe you slipped or, you know, maybe you got pumped sooner than you thought, you have that to deal with as well. So you come off thinking, where am I? And then someone tells you, hey, right now you got the high point. So good coming from Saul Barth there. Campbell Saranopoulos taking off on the left side.
And on the right side, which you're not seeing on your screen yet, Nathan Monty is just rerunning through his beta. And if you don't know where we are at G1 Climbing and Fitness in Broomfield, Colorado. Really beautifully done climbing gym. These really cool angles on the wall. I love the color scheme. We have a mezzanine up top where everybody can watch from, which is awesome. Get a little top-down view of what the climbers are climbing on right now. Yeah, that's a really great location.
Having that second floor, the bouldering is all up on the second floor. There's a pretty good bouldering area up there, but having that ability to watch the lead comp from the mezzanine, not have your neck craned up the whole time.
Oh, it's the best.
It is really, really good. And, anybody who's been to enough lead competition knows that standing on the ground, I mean, you get home at the end of the day and you think that you need to put your neck in a brace. So here's a look up on the mezzanine, some nervous parents and coaches. They have a,
I believe that's Nathan's mom, actually.
Well spotted.
Makes sense.
That does make sense.
Campbell really speeding through this section of the women's route. Nathan also making a lot of good decisions here to get his feet up for this next section. Set up for that jump. Make sure he clips here. We know that you can clip later, just it's a little tricky, as we saw Clay Gordon do a bit earlier. Nice. Yeah. Came out a little farther than I expected. But
it looked a bit awkward.
Oh, he's going to choose to clip low too.
And campus clip.
Why not?
No problem.
Keep it exciting.
For the fans.
Yeah, doing it for the fans.
The Hollywood clip maneuver.
And Campbell's one of the shortest athletes in this competition at just 5'1" with a +0 wingspan. So, you know, you'll find that she will generally have to do things a little different than some of the other athletes, but very, very powerful and talented climber.
Double toe hooks from Nathan.
Nice close-up there.
Try and get some freshness back in the arms. Campbell with the, kind of got into the drive by a bit low, as we were saying, maybe. Didn't have the same footwork.
Didn't have that crimp locked down enough in order to stay close enough to the wall for that cross. Nathan trying to get up into that high point territory.
I mean, he's chalking up on this crimp, which tells me that he's still got some. Oh, I don't know.
But there's no hold there. There's a little there. I mean, it's not terrible, but it definitely the screw-ons are better. This is going to zap his energy a bit more. A little route reading mistake there.
And even to not decide to come in with the right hand to the crimp, maybe in the angle he was in, he couldn't see it and didn't remember where it was. But
and that's the thing, it's hard to remember, especially when you've got all these screw-ons on these larger holds. You got to take that time ahead of time, which he did, but it's still easy to miss.
Or
Campbell Saranopoulos currently next to Julia Duffy, who is our current leader with her really impressive performance. About 10 minutes ago, I'd say. Really good fight up there. She's been in the final many times, so I know she wants to get back in there.
And it's a tenuous time when you come out early, so maybe if you didn't qualify as high as you think you should have, and you have to watch, you know, 19 climbers come after you. We get
It's
into
stressful.
that stressful situation where you're excited to watch your people that you know and friends of yours and teammates climb well, but you're watching your name either bump down the leaderboard or sit near the top of it, and it's a long time to be anticipating either making it or not making it.
Exactly. Nice look at Campbell, Isis, and Julia just hanging out, going back over through the route. One of the best things about the climbing community is everyone is generally really good friends and just so supportive. And, you know, these comps are obviously a big deal. They're trying to get on the team and whatnot, but everybody also is coming to see their friends. Everybody lives in different parts of the country. Some people might be in college and they used to be on a team with someone, so it's a great place to be back and hanging out with your friends and getting to do the sport that you love.
Yeah, and it was cool yesterday. Now that we've gone to the format of qualifying where you have a video to watch the route, you can watch your competitors climb. You're not in isolation during qualification, so you can watch your friends climb. And it becomes, I mean, not a lot of climbers left the gym early.
Oh, no.
This is, as you were mentioning here, these nasty little crimps, and they're I mean, you're on your feet, but you still have to grab nasty little crimps right off the deck.
It's never the most fun. Brian Squire on the right and Lily Gertison on the left. Both making quick work of this opening section. Trying to conserve as much energy as possible.
Just making the right foot decisions. You don't want to get too stretched out. Route climbing, it can be tempting to not leave really good foot placements, and you can overreach. You can climb too tall for where you are. But most of the women at this point have been making really good decisions through the bottom section of this climb.
Yeah, it just all comes down to how much energy they conserved. Oh, goodness. Gosh.
Came into the wall hard, but an excellent catch. Excellent catch to keep him off the ground. That's a big jump with a lot of rope out, so that's a spicy section.
He's just upset with the fact that he missed the hold. Yeah. And that's a tricky section for the men too, because a lot of them are choosing not to clip ahead of time. So if you do miss it, that fall is going to be big if you don't have that lower clip.
Fantastic catch from Laura Del Mato, the belayer there.
Yep. Quinn Mason's mom, actually.
Handling that really, really well. And I mean, let's not understate how stressful it is to be a belayer, because the climbers make these crazy decisions.
I think comp belaying might be the scariest thing ever. I would be terrified. Lily looking really calm and like she has a lot of energy left here. Yeah,
it's just, you see Brian there, as you mentioned, he's disappointed with his performance, not with the fall itself.
Especially because he is such a good lead climber. Oh, she's going to go.
There's
this is
that's
what Kylie was trying to do.
Yeah.
So maybe they read this together.
And is she going to kind of try and find a foot match?
This is where it gets tricky. I mean, she can, but I wonder, though, does that save you energy? I don't think it really does. I get wanting to have all your feet on and not having to come so far off the wall with your lower body, but I don't know. It seems like it's more work than it's worth. Yeah,
we'll get a second look at the decision-making that led up to. So you see he hasn't clipped the draw there, and then just shorted it. And then an really excellent
nice
catch.
Yeah, I feel like the sound of the slamming into the, well, not even like slamming, but because think about it, avoiding that volume was what needed to happen, and Laura executed amazingly there in keeping Brian safe. But anytime you hear someone hit the wall, like, I think that sounds aggressive.
The belayers, they go through quite a lot, actually, Megan. I mean, they have belaying courses, and Ty Hardaway has done an excellent job over the years. There he is in the black hat and black hoodie, coaching through as well as teaching and training. So we had a couple of really good catches yesterday where the climbers were fun, and the belayers are the ones that are like, you know, you have a moment of doubt. Did I do the right thing? And, you know, if some things you're going to see are going to look dramatic, they're going to sound dramatic. As Megan said, the sound of hitting the wall, that's just, the walls are hollow, so it echoes and it's loud. And if your climber doesn't land on the ground, you have 9 times out of 10 done a fantastic job as a belayer. And competition belaying, I've done it myself.
You have? You're brave. I would never.
And youth nationals. And the youth climbers make even more rash decisions.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm just going to climb until I fall off, regardless of where this quick draw is, because I want the points. So, my goodness, it can be very stressful. And our belaying crew here has been fantastic all weekend to this point.
Carly Alba turning around and getting another look at the semifinals route. You saw her in semis in bouldering earlier this week. If you watched, only 15 years old. She's in her first season of the Elite Series, and she was 11th in bouldering, so she's already off to a great start, back in another semis, as Sergey Lochno takes a second to also read the route. He was so fun to watch at team trials last year. If you're looking for someone who will fight on the wall,
Here's
watch
your guy.
Sergey.
And he was a crowd. Every time I looked up twice yesterday, I mean, I looked up a bunch of times, but twice just because so many people were cheering for Sergey. So
yeah.
he seems to have found himself to be a fan favorite quickly during the qualifying round yesterday.
Yeah, another one of the vertical world athletes out of Washington, Tyson Schoen's program, which has developed a lot of very, very elite level athletes. We'll see one of those later with Sean Bailey.
Yeah, over many years.
Many
he's
years,
been doing
like
a great
decades.
job with that program. Shout out for sure to Vertical World.
Sergey dropping the rope there a little bit, but nice correction.
You see the clocks are different. The clock doesn't start until you leave the ground, so you do have time to do a little bit of previewing and get yourself sorted before you take off. You get your own clock. And that's just watching Carly line that move up. That's
It's a committing
steel
move.
yourself to the commitment. Yep.
The hold you're going to is pretty good, and that's the other thing. So many of these athletes, when you're doing competitions all the time, you start to recognize a lot of the holds that you see on the wall, so you can kind of tell when you can and cannot go to something with a little more gusto. I think I was talking to Zach Alley yesterday, and he was talking about I think the other route, and he was saying that, oh, I know those holds, like, I feel better about it because I know those holds.
Yeah,
it's always a comforting thing.
Very much so. You're like, I know exactly how good that is. I've climbed on that on a steeper angle.
Yeah.
Like I know that I have
There's
it
like
in me.
comparisons.
And it gives you a frame of reference to work with. Also keeping her feet on through here from Carly.
Always smart when you're in that roof section. Sergey nicely. Yes, I feel like a lot of the men are choosing not to clip that just so there isn't that potential rope drag there, which I totally understand. Also, the stance might not be the best, but it does make for a possible big fall.
Yeah, sweaty palms in the room.
I will say, when you're competing, though, you're never thinking about the fall. Well, unless you're really afraid of falling, which there have been some athletes who do compete and lead that really are afraid of falling. But I know for myself, I never really thought about it. But now, like if I'm forerunning, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to take that fall. A really nice stick by Carly Alba.
And she clipped early, so she gets to move through here and doesn't have to reach back.
Found that little screw on the left side that's necessary to get to this next hold. She's looking to get a high point here.
Maybe now starting to get pumped. Not able to bend that left arm to gain the ground, but great climbing to get to that point.
She'll have that same score as
Sergey
Julia
went out
Duffy.
right as well just there, and then came back in again. So I wonder if they read that together to go out and grab that side of that.
I will say that's another thing about Sergey is I watched him have interesting beta choices sometimes, and you think to yourself, how is he going to get out of this? And then he'll get out of it. It's wild.
And he's a super powerful climber. Just a good look at the angle there. And as you saw him just sort of slip out of matching that undercling. He's a powerful climber. So sometimes you look for maybe compression style moves instead of, if I can squeeze compression instead of crimp something tiny, maybe that'll serve me better.
That should put him as a new leader by 1 point just with that match. That blue undercling is 17 points. If you get it with one hand, the minute you match it, you get 18. So he is the new leader, and a nice 28 plus for Carly, which will put her in the same position as Julia Duffy, but because she was ranked higher from qualifiers, that puts her actually in the #1 spot.
Yeah, for this round, all of our ties, if there are any, are going to go back to count back to how you qualified in the way. So new leaders on both sides. We're seeing a little bit of progress. half a move here and half a move there, but that's sometimes what we need to be looking for in the lead climbing side of things. Just getting incrementally farther up the route is going to put you up in the leaderboard. So the cutoff there at the red line is our finals cutoff. So Sergei Lakno sitting at the top, Solomon Barth, Kevin Albright. And on the women's standings, you see Julia Duffy sitting at the top there, tied with Carly Alba, and then Kylie, Jillian, Carrie Campbell, Callie and Alex sitting
Alex
on the
Johnson's still
bubble,
in there.
on the bubble for now.
We'll see what happens next.
As we see Morgan Tajay and Ray Hansen. Nope.
It's Kylie Cullen.
Kylie Cullen. I am one line off. That's what happens when you look at the paper instead of the screen. Like, obviously, that's Kylie Cullen. And then Ray Hansen for the men.
Kylie just actually won youth nationals in lead this year. First time being a youth national champion, which is surprising considering her accolades, many accolades on the elite side. She won team trials for bouldering.
And I mean, I think I'm surprised. It's surprising to me because she's successful on the open circuit, that she's still a youth.
And in the World Cups, yeah, she's made so many semifinals in Bouldering World Cups. Just getting into doing more of the lead World Cups, which is exciting to see her do so many of those comps. Yeah, it's interesting though, because that youth nationals, the level at youth nationals cannot be doubted. There are so many good youth climbers, which is just so great to see, because that means that we'll have so many more incredible elite climbers coming through in the coming years. So many of these athletes who go back and forth between elite and youth, they have competition in both realms because it's just that stacked.
And it shows that the system is working. The youth system is very, very strong and getting athletes ready to go climb on the open circuit while they're still quite young. And that is something that we've been working on, is across all federations, I think, in all countries, as we see Ray making the decision here to set up
nice
clip later. And a good look. He didn't even look at that clip. He definitely, there was no, I'm going to think about it when I get there. He got into that position and jumped right out.
I'm going to guess a lot of the men read that together as well. Like, don't bother with that clip there. Just go ahead and do the jump and then clip after.
Figure it out afterwards.
Kylie moving quickly.
Yes, very.
See if she chooses to clip off this pocket.
Gonna elect to go.
Yep.
It looked pretty controlled. Just watching that left arm unwind to control the momentum. Ray into this burly section that spat off
he looks
so many men. He looks
fresh right now. See if we can just continue to read this nicely.
There we go.
Get that high point.
If she can get a little, find some room here to get a little blood back in the forearms, maybe get into this section here, might afford a little bit more rest.
I'm really excited to see this next section, because there's this little crack that they're going to go to that has a hidden hold in it, actually. It's
right
just
there.
Going to miss it, but we almost got to see it.
We teased it. We were close. We were close.
Really nicely done for Ray. Also going to get the high point there, moving off of that match. He looked really good through that section with those big red holds and the screw-ons on them. I feel like that's where we've seen a lot of the men start to look so zapped, and when he went off the undercling to the little screw-on, you just saw him slowly grab the thumb onto the crimp, and you're like, okay, well, he's got at least 5 more moves or more in him. He's not zapped at all.
No, and the elbows stayed low, the arms stay relaxed. You sort of, he's 33 plus, Kylie Cullen, and it's a quick check. The judge will tell you what score you got, and you decide if you agree with that or not. Most of the time, the judges are spot on. And Ray, is he talking to the Belair? I think I heard him say, I couldn't see that hold, but. All right, so as Ray gets a little bit of help untying his knot, which is great. You're so pumped, it's hard to untie your knot.
So true.
We're going to take a break to brush the holds. Do not go anywhere. We are right in the thick of it here at the lead semifinals 2022 Yeti Climbing National Championships in Broomfield, Colorado. We'll see you in a minute.
This is not just a climbing gym. You can come here and be whoever you want to be. I was a lost soul. I had affiliated with the gang life at the age of 12, but I didn't have any guidance. I didn't have a place like this I could come to, and those were the only people at the time I can relate to. But the more I started coming to Memphis Rocks, I started to meet kids who don't look like me. I was like everyone else because I looked around and everybody's in the gym doing the same thing, climbing. A lot of the problems I had on the ground, once I got on the wall, they stayed on the ground. It makes my soul like want to jump out of my body because I know the more kids that are in here, the less kids that are out there that can get in trouble.
So yeah, we've been testing out the new catch and hold system from the True Blue IQ Plus. And with the IQ Plus, you know, you're just able to stop there, rest, shake out, try to figure out the moves. And yeah, really excited to have this new device in our gym. It's going to just really help us to continue growing the sport.
Whether you're alpine climbing or cragging after work, Gnarly Nutrition is here to help you push your possible.
We fight the battles no one hears about. We drop into the middle of firefights to rescue others.
And act as one-man air traffic control towers.
We're the ones who go before all others. Join the fight.
Since 1966, we have viewed walls not as obstacles, but as opportunities. From the big walls of Yosemite to the high peaks of the Himalaya, we were searching for a personal kind of freedom. In this pursuit, we found a community, strengthened by different stories, experiences, and perspectives. This community has shown us that the only way forward is together.
All right, welcome back to the semi-finals here at the 2022 Yeti Climbing National Championships. Pete Woods here alongside Megan Martin, and we are at the halfway point of this semi-final round. 26 semi-finalists. We've seen 13 of them, and we are trying to get down to 8 for the final later on this afternoon. Right now we are brushing just halfway point. We want to get some of the chalk and the boot rubber off. and hang out. They're not going to brush for too long. They're only going to brush up to the high point, to the most climbed sections, and then we're going to jump right back into it with our next climbers after that. Maybe just take a minute here, Megan, to thank the volunteers that are here from USA Climbing, the volunteers that are here from G1 Climbing and Fitness, of course G1 for hosting the event, and their staff have been wonderful. We had Speed here the other day and now into the lead section, so everyone has been really great to work with. Everyone's been running really smoothly. The belayers, of course, the judges, and now you see the route setters are the ones brushing the holds.
Oh yeah, the route setters are always the ones brushing the holds. They don't let just anybody up there. You definitely have to have some qualifications in order to have that job. But yeah, these competitions could not run without the volunteers that are here, and for the facilities choosing to host these competitions. And you know, I work with the volunteers a lot because they help me out a lot as well, gathering information at check-in. I often spend a lot of time with them at check-in, making sure we can get a lot of the info from the athletes so that their title cards look great, and they are just amazing. They're so happy all the time, and they're just giving their time back to the sport, and we really couldn't do them without them and do it without them. And Madeline Palmer right now is in charge of all the volunteers, and she is absolutely doing an incredible job. I know she's made my life so much easier, so thank you to all of the volunteers for USA Climbing and here at G1, because obviously we want to see more rock climbing.
Yeah, and we cannot do it without everybody that puts the time in. And I mean, if we were a multi-million-dollar sport, we'd pay them, of course, but yeah. we don't have it in there.
Not yet. You're getting a look here at Jonathan Brandt, the chief route setter of the lead competition, just belaying one of the other route setters who is taking the job of brushing, making sure that we keep that playing field as fair as possible. 13 climbers have gone. Holds haven't gotten too crazy, but if we left it for, you know, the next 13 climbers, it wouldn't be exactly as fair. So it's nice to have that brush break in order to get some of the chalk and shoe rubber off these holds.
Yeah, it does get caked on there, and it's part of the game. You know, is that the later you go, you know you're going to get some holds that aren't as fresh. They don't have that same tackiness that you get right off the hop. But yeah, we go out, we scrub them up, make sure everybody's got as much chance as they can of sticking fresh holds. Yeah. You see Mike here brushing up the gnarly little crimp section. If you want to hang out, we are going to come back. You're not going to miss any of the action, I promise. We're just going to let them do their job. And when action is ready to go, we will be back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We are in the middle of the lead semi-finals at the 2022 Yeti Climbing National Championships here in Broomfield, Colorado at the beautiful G1 Climbing and Fitness. Here's a look at your current standings. Kylie Cullen with some excellent climbing into the top third of this route, sitting in first place. 33 plus is her score. And then Ray Hansen getting just a half a move farther than Sergey to put him at the top of the lead route. The men's route proving to be very stout. All of the men coming back at about that halfway point. We are joined by a very special guest, Sienna Kops. CC, how are you doing? And welcome to the broadcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I'm doing well, doing well.
What have you thought of this semifinals round so far?
I think it's been good. A little savage for both genders, but I think that's what we're seeing on the international stage. So to see that reflected yesterday in the qualifier and today in the semifinal is, yeah, ideal.
I was going to say, you climbed yesterday. We saw you in the Boulder round as well. You're coming back from injury. The semifinals, or the qualifying routes, also fairly difficult.
Definitely. Yeah, I definitely felt that yesterday. Overall, proud of my climbing and my comeback. Haven't had that long to train. But I thought it went well, and I thought the routes really reflected what I did get to see on the international circuit back in 2019. And that's kind of a change in USA climbing setting and USA climbing setting at these national championships from past events that I've done. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, it's good to see you back.
Yeah, it's so great to see you back, but risky movement is the theme right now, I feel like. And especially on these walls, especially this right side, which you had your second qualifier on that right side, and it was so awkward, right?
Yes, every move you kind of feel like, wow, I really could fall right now. And that's persistent for draws and draws and draws, and it doesn't let up. Even the girls on the women's route today were talking about that this was the sketchiest climbing that they had done this weekend.
Oh, wow.
Which is crazy. Like we talked about, that route yesterday really pushed us too, so.
Yeah, lots of digging deep and creative decision-making while you're climbing. Also, so many long draws, which are so awkward to clip. I mean, it's nice because, you know, you can get to them from multiple locations, but with how quickly they swing, I feel like it's been kind of adding an extra crux for a lot of people.
Definitely. I definitely caught up with the clip yesterday, and a couple of us have talked about the clips being some of the cruxes of the routes and making us really tired.
Save there by Simon.
Wonderful save by Simon. And I mean, he's the man with the 6-foot climber with the 6-inch wingspan. You thought maybe he would have been in a much better position to be through that section.
One of the few men who've chosen to clip that draw early, and you did see like a little short roping happening there, and that's again why a lot of the men, I think, are choosing to skip it, even though there is that potential for a pretty big fall.
Yeah, we saw Brian take a big fall off of that dyno earlier.
Did. We saw it twice, actually.
Yeah.
We did a replay.
Simon
scary.
Able to stick it. It also looks like this section that we're approaching here with Simon, the men are missing that second hold on this volume. That could be a result of the preview, not being able to see it. So
this decision is just...
I'm surprised. Well, I guess they weren't allowed to pass where those stanchions were, so maybe they wouldn't see it, which also makes me wonder, there is a hold that we saw Kylie go for that part of the volume, but there's a hold under there as well. And
no
like,
way. I would have had no idea.
Yeah, see, I didn't know either until I walked around to go see the men's route, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's an orange hold in there. So I'm curious if any of the women saw that as well, just depending on where they were standing.
Morgan kind of coming off there at one of the early bottlenecks. That move looks really tricky. We saw Alex Johnson and a few others fall off there. It kind of looks like to me that that's where the route starts to turn up in difficulty and changes styles.
We were talking earlier that the bottom of the route, there's some gnarly crimps, you end up over gripping, and then that's the first point where the route asks more of you, and you get off your feet. So as soon as you tip back, you get off your feet, and I was like, wait a minute, I'm way more gassed than I thought I was because of the setting at the beginning of the route. But
yeah, most of the women falling there have just honestly had the pump sneak up on them a bit, and then they're like, oh no, I'm off the wall.
Now what? And then you're out. And even Simon there, I would have said as he came into the underclings, just the position that he had, I thought he was looking pretty good, but that decision to go way out, I mean, nothing quite translates on the screen, but the decision that you saw him go out right to that sort of compression, it's really quite far.
Yeah.
Especially looking, Simon being a taller climber, and he was
6
stretched there.
+6. It'd be interesting to see what Zach does. I feel like he's the shortest climber we've seen go so far for the men. So we've seen a lot of, and honestly, he might stay more in line with where you're supposed to go because he would never think to go out there because he is so much shorter.
I think Zach is also exceptional at this sketchy style.
100%. This is like so in his wheelhouse.
I don't know what makes him so good at this kind of climbing, but he pretty much always excels. So it'll be exciting to watch.
Yeah, especially just this, we're going to see 26 different versions of the opening to this based on all the really clever there. Mira
create some nice opposition.
So relaxed. Yeah.
She said, actually, it's funny because before Bouldering finals, which she did really well in, she ended up with the bronze. She was like, it's so weird, Bouldering, so I've actually been focusing so much more on lead climbing recently because she's always kind of been more of a boulderer.
Right.
So in the past year and a half, she's been really putting that work and focus into lead, which has been really good for her as far as the season's gone already in terms of her youth season, because she was 11th at World Championships for youth in lead this year.
Very impressive.
I think it's worth pointing out that a full minute of time has elapsed, and Zach just clipped the second quick drop.
Yep. Mira just on the third, maybe?
Yeah.
Yep. No, I mean, I've been really impressed with Mira this event as well. Maybe some of that lead training contributed to the composure she showed in bouldering.
Finals, yeah.
In all the rounds, honestly. It was really fun to watch because she is one of the younger competitors, but definitely doesn't show it.
Still quite young.
Zach,
only 17.
Zach electing to clip that one early, as maybe that's coming in. We were mentioning one of the shorter climbers who wasn't interested in the reach back down to try and get it. So he seems to, he had a bit of, I mean, he looked like he was about to come off making the earlier move out of the triangle volume, but now he's getting back.
He needs to recover here. I think he probably overgripped and spent a little more time on that bottom section than he would have wanted to. He's definitely capable of getting it back here, and like these moves for him, he's so strong on this style of climbing, so he should feel less strenuous. But it does look like he's already having to fight a little bit.
Getting a good position there, digging his toe into the blue to find the clip. That's really smart.
Going straight for that hole, just has to find it. See, he's definitely not going to go out right at all. Mira looking really solid as well.
Sort of choosing to chalk up where I think almost everyone is just burned through.
And clipping really early. I was wondering if anyone would clip here. Most people are choosing to go off the pocket. Maybe she's reassessing now.
Zach needs to... Go, out-climbed the cliff to try and get an extra point, and did. So that's going to put him, I think, in line with Zach, or with Ray Hansen.
Very nice from Mira there. It's kind of interesting on that move. You're driving your hips and your foot over into a new body position, but your hands are staying in the same spot.
And some of the women have not wanted to do that, and they're trying to go feet first higher, which I think is going to be a lot more difficult and strenuous on the body. But we've seen like 2 of the athletes try that. She's looking a little pumped now. See if she can get it back for a couple more moves, because there's some drop needs to be had coming up, which would allow her to get a little energy back.
Really good fight there from Mira. Yeah. These holds matter a lot, so getting every point you can is huge.
She kind of looked like she got a little wrapped up in the rope there as well.
Just that you saw her, that great top-down look at how extended she was on that crimp. Took that 4 or 5 second shake, managed to wrap it back up and get 3 or 4 more moves. And as Cici, you were just saying, that when you have a route that's compressing the leaders into a small space, every plus is going to matter.
Oh, definitely. I really liked what she did there that you mentioned on the pocket, taking that second, using that composure that she's been showing to say, oh, I need more energy in my left hand. I'm going to take a second to give myself that chance of holding on, you know? And it definitely paid off.
And that's something you can really only do too if you have been training sport climbing. Like,
absolutely.
If you've just been bouldering, you don't have the energy and time to think that way. You're just kind of panicked and just moving. So clearly her training is paying off. and she showed a great display of that today, and we'll see if that gets her into the final. Currently sitting in second place, so we'll see how that goes.
Cece, I'm curious, when you preview a route like this, what are you looking for landmarks? Are you saying that's going to be a section I'm going to need to be calm? Are you looking for, just remembering your whole sequence, bottom to top? Like just walk us through a little bit of that. What are you looking for yourself, and how are you managing that attempt before you even get on?
Yeah, those 6 minutes, you have 6 minutes to preview. It goes fast on a route. So you try and get as much information as possible. For me, I definitely like an idea of the sequence and want to memorize kind of as much of that as possible. But I think I agree with you on also identifying harder sections where I can identify that I need to turn it up and turn on that like bouldering, fight, strength mode, and sections where now I need to switch it back into relaxation, lead climbing, because I think that pendulum between the two is really important, and the best lead climbers, they do it so effortlessly.
Well said. As we see Timothy Kang embarking on the men's semifinal, and Chloe Costco is going to be over on the left.
Timmy, one of the men to top a route yesterday. He got the first top on men's Route 1, which was really exciting. Wish you guys could have seen that. Maybe it's on Instagram, with a cool foot first bat hang near the top of the wall. There were quite a few tops from the men yesterday, but then only Sean Bailey actually topping both routes, and one top only for the women yesterday.
Chloe coming very, very close to a top on the second route.
So 3 women got very close to topping the second route. Or 4 women actually got very close.
Last move.
The finishing sequence on that women's qualifier was so gnarly.
It was. You had to just like jump on a vert part of the wall to a giant hold, but like kind of press up and jump. And everybody came up short.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if anyone did that move, honestly, before running.
I don't know.
I'm
Quinn was
curious.
saying, Quinn Mason, another athlete that got high up on that second qualifier, she said she was so plastered to the wall there.
Yeah, she said she
trying to
couldn't
keep her
move.
body in, that she wasn't able to make that generation to the jug at the top.
Like it was pushing against her.
Chloe looking very relaxed here. Just that sort of, look for the relax in the shoulders, kind of languidly moving back and forth on the hand switch. That reach out, you see the kind of a little extra forearm stretch. These are the signs that we're looking for, people who are in good control at their point on the route. And Tim Kang looking good as well. Very calm on the jump, not a big swing as one of our taller climbers. And here, you were mentioning with Ray, just going to each hold so slow and controlled. That Tim's looking good here.
And Tim should do really well on this route. He's had a lot of like near misses in competitions, unfortunately. Like he's always like a spot or 2 out of the final when he's very capable of being on the podium. So let's see if he can put it together. He's already making good work, and that left hand, the left hand he's on too, is actually not that great. As Chloe is looking really calm, going to clip early. Another athlete who spent a lot of time working on lead. She just was 15th in Moriyaka at that combined event in Japan.
So Tim Tim may be thinking he's come off a bit early, but when he looks at the leaderboard, he'll be maybe surprised to see that he's at the top of it.
I feel like we should have it plastered somewhere like on a screen so they can just look right to it afterwards. Slip for Chloe.
Oh,
darn. She really looked so calm and relaxed and confident there.
There is a chance that will still be enough, but she definitely could have shown so much more.
Just that left foot, and then the crimp that she's on there. She was sort of, it looked like almost in between re-gripping. She was so casually there that she didn't have time to react to the foot slip. That happened very quickly.
She had a slip yesterday as well, so she's just getting her slips out of the way. Saving it for finals, see if it all works out, and she can show us everything she's got in finals. Not that many climbers to go.
Not getting the plus there, obviously, because of the slip, which is definitely a bummer. We're seeing maybe not a bottleneck, but a few athletes that are tied with the 28 plus.
Yeah, so having just that 28 is definitely going to be a bit of a kicker.
And no matter what fitness she had left, she definitely had enough to give a plus. So
Just a quick look at your men's leaderboard. Tim Kang climbing his way into the lead at 21 plus, followed by Zach, Ray, and Sergey all getting quite close to that move, and then Simon Hibbler, and Nathan Monty anxiously watching the leaderboard thinking, am I going to get in with 14 points on this semifinal route? On the women's side, Kylie Cullen is showing to be the class of the field so far, 33 plus. Mira, Carly, Julia, Chloe, all getting in that 28-29 range. Lily, Kylie, and Jillian in the 26 range. So the climbing, as expected, is difficult, but we are now getting into the last quarter of the field, or last third, and every name from here on out is a heavy hitter.
And this is your first look at Zoe Yi. This is her first season on the Elite Series, a very talented climber all around. She was third at Youth Nationals in lead. Annie Sanders is in her category, so you know that category is stacked.
Super stacked.
Ross Fulkerson on the right, obviously a familiar face if you've been paying attention to the comps in the last 4 to 5 years.
And Ross on his second qualifier yesterday fought, I think, maybe as hard, he said, as he ever has to gain. There was crazy tufa pinches. It was so pumpy, and he just screamed his way through about 5 more moves than I thought he was going to get. I was very impressed. And then on the flip side of that, Zoe, there was a big dead point at the top third of the women's route. Stuck it, swung out, hung Campus one-handed to clip, and then Campus rested, and then turned the corner up the route and looked incredibly composed.
It was crazy.
I'm sure a lot of people got photos of that.
Scroll through Instagram for the casual Campus clip from Zoe Yi.
And what you were talking about with Ross's fight yesterday, for these top athletes, maybe getting to the semifinal isn't super, super challenging, but putting yourself in an awesome position is really important. We see a lot of ties on these routes, and if you can win on countback, that could be the difference between being in the final and being out of it.
Excellent point.
So true. He's reading this really well. I feel like a lot of the earlier men that came out were kind of back and forth in this section, not really committing to what they wanted to do.
I like this clip too.
He did a good job.
Sort of pull up into the power position of that undercurrent, but you can, okay, no, he's going to take a little chalk time.
He looks a lot better now, in a much better position. Zoe looking calm as a cucumber over there.
Yeah,
I don't feel like she has any stress yet.
We don't need to talk about her just yet. She's doing just fine over there. Ross got to find, man, that hand, the left hand that he's on.
Oh, he needs to have his right hand there.
Yeah, and I don't want to clip from that. No way, no how. And he's going to.
Oh, wow, impressive.
Is that going to take all the rest out of the tank?
The Ross Fulkerson fight. There we go.
Is he going to try and match?
He's definitely going to try to get some movement there.
We'll get a plus out of that, and that'll put him, in the top 3 or 4.
Yeah, it will. The men's route is clearly very difficult. They held nothing back on this semifinal route for the men. And I get it. I think across the board, there ended up probably being like 5 or 6 tops yesterday. Wow, I'm sorry.
So calm.
I just have to stop really quick because the way she just released like that, I bet she must be able to do quite a few one-arms just after watching that.
And the core tension to hold that leg in perfect position the whole way through. Zoe looking every bit like she's going to storm past the current high point.
She's definitely capable of topping a route like this. Definitely starting to look a little more fatigued, but I think there'll be a chance to get it back a little bit.
Yeah, moving quicker.
Getting that clip, we saw Kylie unable to get. Skipping and holding the volume, very nice.
This is her high point now.
Now here she has to rock up and get to this pinch. Doesn't want to use the hold. Going to come up a little short.
Excellent climbing from Zoe Yi.
And a new high point for the women's route.
Yeah, that puts her well in front.
That route does not let off.
It really, and then that's why that lower rest section, I think, is really the only true rest, because it gets so much steeper after that, and the holds just aren't that good.
No, and you're not going to really get much of a rest out of the pinches up there. That's squeezy. It's not fun to be up there. Cece, when you're looking for rests on a route, especially if you don't recognize all the holds, are you looking for position or holds you can match on? Like, what are you hunting for when you're hunting for rests?
I think position. ultimately. We can get, I mean, the only jugs you ever see on routes like this have some sort of terrible position that make them impossible to rest on. So just identifying the holds, it's not going to get you very far, but kind of these positions, heel hooks, toe hooks, drop knees, those are what you can get weight off your arms and recover.
Or even a bat hang.
Sure.
Tim rested in that bat hang yesterday.
Doesn't happen all the time.
That one's a little more rare, but.
So you see there Zoe Yee getting a hold and change past Kylie Cullen. And then Mira at 29, Carly and Julia at 28 plus. So with about 9 climbers to go, there's we're still going to see some shuffling at the top of this leaderboard. Tim Kang, the class of the men's field at the moment. Ross Fulkerson just behind him. Zach Gallen, Ray Hansen nipping at their heels, hoping that that position holds through the last 8 climbers.
We've got some heavy hitters, young heavy hitters.
I was about to say,
out.
kind of apropos that they're both climbing at the same time. Annie
Definitely.
Sanders on the left, the Boulder Nationals champion for the women, and Hugo Hoyer on the right. He was also in finals and ended up 4th, just off the podium, but both of them 15 years old and both of them very talented climbers. I'm really excited to watch Annie today. She did not perform to her ability yesterday. I know it was pretty disappointing for her to have some little miscalculations, I would say they were more of, but I do think this route will suit her well, possibly better than the routes yesterday.
It's always interesting to watch somebody who, you know, qualifies very comfortably into a semifinal, but still be disappointed because ultimately they're trying not to make mistakes. So you knew that Annie was going to make the semi. What she's trying to do is clean up her process so that she gets through clean and isn't making mistakes. So it's the hallmark of the competitor that at that level, that they always want to have done better. So, yeah, of course I made the semi. That's not what I'm worried about. I'm worried about the fact that I made some errors, some mental mistakes.
Yeah, me versus myself. Like, I didn't perform to my potential. That's why I'm bummed, right?
Yes.
Which honestly is the best outlook to have, because if you're focusing too much on placement, I feel like you're always going to be disappointed. You should always be thinking about your own climbing. Gosh, that hold is so tricky to find. You've seen a lot of the men who go to it have to go to it kind of 2 or 3 different times in order to actually find it.
And they're extended when they get there. It's hard to pull up into that position. This is just, this set of moves here are really putting them awkwardly and making them get on their hands a little bit too much, so causing them some fits.
As well.
This is kind of, okay, switching it around, doing what Ross tried, deciding better of it, getting the right hand up there.
Ross tried a little too late, I feel like. I feel like he was zapped for energy a bit more. Really nice correction by
control on the drive-by.
Wow.
I would just keep going.
Just keep going. Agreed, yeah. So a half a pull to try and clip that. But good climbing from Hugo Hoyer. And Annie climbing very slowly.
She is a slower climber. That is kind of her style. And we talked about this earlier in the broadcast yesterday, I believe, or not yesterday, sorry.
They all rolled in together.
During finals the other day.
It's like 3 days ago.
Who knows? But every climber has a different style. Some people climb really fast. I mean, adverse to Annie's styles right now. You're going to see Kyra Condi soon. She's a very quick climber. Some people are more happy medium. But yeah, I feel like when I watch Annie climb, I find that she's trying to eliminate risk. Every move she makes is to eliminate risk, eliminate overexerting herself. That example, just bringing that foot up higher in order to have a better placing this toe hook here. She's trying to keep all 4 points on at all times. And occasionally she's forced not to. And I think that that's going to be the biggest thing that's going to help her grow moving on, is learning to accept some of the risk, because you can't always eliminate it. It's not possible. There's a lot of risky movements you can get rid of, but some of them are going to be very forced. And especially, as you know, CC on the World Cup circuit, that is ever present.
Absolutely.
And it's something that, you know, she's still so young, and more time and coaching, and you don't want to turn someone into their anti-style, but you want to, as you say, teach them to accept some risk.
And that's her accepting risk right there. So she clearly recognizes obvious risk, which is great. It's going to be the fine-tuning later. But again, 15 years old, she's doing everything right. That's going to be something later when she's, trying to be...
When the roots get harder and
when
harder.
The roots get harder, when she's trying to
circuit,
get on that, podium at the Adult World Cups.
And even that little half shake just to start put her hand down on her thigh when she was in that pocket. She's finding positions that the other women haven't found to this point to look relaxed. Doesn't look really stressed at all yet, but now this is where we started to test Kylie.
And skipping a hold there too, which is a good decision, I think.
This is right
Maybe
where
looking a little more pumped here.
Yeah, this is where Zoe started to look stressed. Yeah,
but again, coming back down, recovering that left arm, looking better already. Let's see if she can stick it.
Yep. And that's the real difference when you watch people who are phenomenal at lead climbing, because they are able to recover in places that most people cannot.
Sticking the pinch, that's our high point. The clock.
I was about to say, take a look at that clock.
Making, that's a big, powerful move. She elected not to do the bump. Annie.
Definitely capable of going for a top here. Now the last move is quite punchy, so it'll be exciting to see how she approaches it.
Staying in good position here.
Running a little low on time.
Yeah,
as well.
running a lot low on time.
She's going to have to keep moving if she wants to get a chance to try that finish move.
I can imagine her resting here for the full 30 seconds
I
she has
know,
left.
right?
But that's not an option.
Do you think she's had a look back to see where that clock is, or do you think she's just going to climb until they tell her to stop?
I don't think she has looked at it, honestly. Normally you can see when athletes look at it.
Look at that power at the top of this roof.
10 seconds left, though. Will she have enough
Sanders.
time? She still has 2 clips to make as well. Let's see if she... Oh,
No.
she's just going to...
Decides better of it.
She's just going to go for it. Wow. Nice big swing.
Really fantastic climbing. Annie Sanders getting essentially to the top of this women's semifinal. I'm just going to point out that right-hand lock-off.
It was insane.
So nice.
On the 43rd move, showing you how
Only
much
the
power she
43rd.
had. My
Very
goodness.
impressive. Just well body positioned there. Really good understanding of how to set herself up to push the knee over, get her hips onto that head wall, and then make that big reach.
I didn't see any
hold.
mistakes. I think every position, she did a lot of things that we haven't seen yet. She is one of the smaller climbers, so she got a couple of high foot positions, as you said, getting up into those tight positions and using them exactly as you should. So that is
awesome.
a couple of leaders now, again, on the 15 years old.
Yeah, both 15 years old. And they are now the leaders with not that many climbers to come yet.
Oh.
So they're in a good spot. And Annie's going to be so happy with that performance after yesterday. I know. I saw her as she was leaving. I was coming back in from lunch. And I was like, good job. And the minute I said that, I was like, oh, she's going to hate that I said that, because I know that she knows that that was not her best day. So nice to see her have a great run on that semifinals route.
Here's a quick look at your leaderboard. So confirming, Annie Sanders at 44 at the top, Zoe Yee 34 plus, Kylie Cullen 33, and then Mira, Carly, Julia, Chloe closing that out. And at the top you have Hugo Hoyer tied with Timothy Kang, Ross Fulkerson, and then Zach Galla and Ray at 18 plus, Sergey, Saul, and Gavin rounding out your current spots into the final, but with a handful of the best in the country and a couple of the best in the world to come, the bubble spots are at risk. Up next, we're going to have Adrian Akiko, see her there on the left, and Derek New.
Nice quick little smile for the camera.
Yeah, the camera's up in your business there.
It really is.
It's tough to ignore. You got to, learn to love it. Yeah,
you
it's
gotta love
fun.
the camera. You love the camera, right?
I
See?
love the camera.
The camera's
yeah.
fun.
I mean,
I tell everybody to love the camera.
It's cool for us to climb at a big production event. So I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of the events we do, not that many people or not that many cameras are there, I guess. So this is a new stage for climbing for sure.
Yeah, you get your moment in the sun. You take it.
Yeah, definitely.
I was just watching all the draws swinging. I feel like that was always something I looked at first every time I came out to do a lead competition. Would you say the same for you?
Yeah, definitely. You kind of get an idea of where the bar is set by what draws are still swinging, although Annie Sanders set
a high bar.
High bar. But I think Adrian is one of those climbers that also focuses on herself and her own performance, so she's going to do the best that she can, and then we'll let the results figure themselves out. So
Adrian looked really good yesterday during the qualifiers, and she's been in finals before in lead and bouldering, so.
She said she's felt better on lead recently due to a lot of the hard work she's been putting in.
From people,
yes,
which is cool, and it makes sense. You're trying, I mean, with the new format coming up, with the boulder and lead being combined for the next Olympics, everyone's having to make sure that their level is high in both disciplines, and I mean, it's really only over a year away, so
this is
it's
the season
time
to be on team to get into those qualification events, so
Exactly.
it definitely matters.
If there wasn't enough pressure, it just continues to ratchet further and further up. You see,
is it pressure or opportunity?
Love that. Just pull that quote out and lock it down. Is it pressure or opportunity?
You can look at it one of two ways.
You
or
are
both ways.
We joke, but you are 100% correct. Is that the perspective that you put down in front of you before you step into an event like this is like I have a chance to control my fate and do what it needs to do what I want to do. Adrian looking
very good,
very in control. Just that earlier move to the sloper, and then just immediately popping through to the crimp. Like she's making
a little slip there, but nice recovery.
Making connected movements, so turning the route into a really nice flow. And look on the right, Derek New climbing very quickly up into our.
Derek's another athlete who's always been really strong, but not necessarily gotten the results that are deserving of his ability. Definitely got some points up there. It could be enough. Could be enough.
Smart of
big fall.
Skip that clip there.
Yeah,
he realized, oh, I can't clip it. Let me go for the next few holes.
I just feel like that side of the wall is just so awkward to fall on. All the folds are so big.
Adrian really casual through that move that we saw spit some other athletes off.
Looks like she's going to choose to skip that hold as well. That second coming purple crimp. Man, she's looking great.
She is.
This is the best I've seen her lead climb. And you know, she had a really unfortunate misreading of the route at team trials in lead, so it's nice to see a good performance from her.
Yeah, a little, she'll think that she had a little slip
Of
there.
course.
Maybe had another 1 or 2 holds in her, but that is, at this point, I think, I mean, that should be enough. That's putting her in 3rd place.
Or actually, she might actually be in 2nd, because, no, 3rd, because Zoe got the plus there.
Yeah. Things that we noticed and things that we want to point out, Adrian had when she was just coming out from that bunched up pockety position, just those little they're not even shakes, that
the
little,
shake to the
little
hold,
hand roll.
those are the best. If you're an aspiring lead athlete and you want to learn how to gain a little more energy back, the shake to the hold, a little flick of the wrist. It's one of the nice little tricks of the trade.
And it's just enough. And when you're basically at the red line and you've got 3 or 4 holds left in you, if your footwork is compact and right where you want it, those are the things that make a difference. Can I get like a half a stretch into, is it my finger, my wrist, my forearm, my elbow, whatever it is, those, when you stack them all together on top of really good sequencing and smooth climbing, she climbed, you know, I don't think she really took a rest anywhere.
Yeah.
She climbed really beautifully.
It was interesting. I just watched her do like a deep exhale with a kind of like, man, I know I could have done so much better, and probably thinking like, now I'm not going to make finals, but in reality, she climbed so well, and like the minute she sees the results, she's going to feel so much better. But she has no idea.
There's something that we talked about a little bit on the Boulder broadcast that I want to bring up here too, because we alluded to it just a minute ago. Is that if I didn't do it, who's going to? And then there's, oh, wait a minute, I slipped, but look who I'm climbing amongst. Everyone else would have done that. So depending on the day, you go back and forth between those two mental states.
Absolutely.
Love to see Xander Waller here back into a semifinal. and Zoe Bitters on the left.
Yeah, Xander has been battling a little bit of a finger injury the last few weeks, so it's really good to see him climbing like himself again.
Yeah, and I know he was disappointed after his first route yesterday, but then he was able to top the second one. I remember I saw him in between, and I was like, don't worry. I mean, because he fell kind of at the first crux that a lot of people were falling at anyway. I was like, it's fine.
course in the live view now.
What do you say? Let's hear it for Jesse Cooper one more time. Now, quick correction on my part. We got 3 climbers left. Action still to come. Our top 3. Yeti Climbing. on the right side. Give it up for Ellison. Working through on the left side. Please welcome Ellen Fisher and Luke Buring. Here, let's hear it.
Go talk to college. Huh? Everyone's right here. They're all just around here.
A while ago. I was thinking during that time, it's bad I don't have that Osmos Mobile 60.
Oh yeah.
Brian, I'm glad you were using that rib though. Those two rails are just
Yeah. That's brutal though.
Yeah. Push lead generator.
Well, push leads they didn't swap it on the first day after they knew it sucked. Yeah.
We will make another announcement. The results will be posted.
That's pretty gnarly Smith Boulder with it, though.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I see what the gimbal feels like?
Yeah, well, I don't know if the stream's stopped yet or not.
Oh.
If this is the stream, it must have some crazy delay going on right now.
Are you the only guy getting coverage now?
Yeah.
Pretty much. He's our guy. I'll go like 2 of my shots for 30
some space and got a few shots, so I learned you real good. Yeah. I waited till I was at the top though. I got a few things out here.
Quick announcements. The have been posted. Results have been posted. The appeal deadline is 12:44.